the meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. We want to welcome everybody here and everybody that is online also. We have no need for translation, so I need approval of the agenda.
Sorry about that. I motion to approve today's agenda.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carries. Now we'll go on to student representative reports. Sebastian.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to inform everyone that Miles won't be attending today's meeting due to a lot of leadership activities he's doing. So while he's busy with that, I'll talk to you guys a bit about the ideas that Dr. Perez and I, along with Miles, discussed during our previous meeting that we met initially after our board discussion on the previous one, in which we discussed about events that are currently ongoing in which we can bring the board to the community. Some of these events would include the Running Start Night that's upcoming on September 16th and the Senior Parent Night that's already pre-existing on the September 23rd. And along with the tradition of Husky Olympics, we can initialize some events to bring the board towards them. As of right now, me and Miles are still having conversations back and forth on what exactly type of events we should do, but we're thinking we should have something similar to Cookies for Convo, but possibly different price options, maybe candy, tickets, pizza, coupons, or anything of that sort. As for that, that's all from my student representative report.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Just a quick question for you. What is CB Tech Night and Running Start Night?
CB Tech Night, I believe, is tonight, but we never got any official time for that. Running Start Night is on September the 16th from 5 to 6 p.m.
Oh, sorry, I meant like what are those meetings? What's the purpose of those?
Oh, for these ones, they're already pre-existing events. For Running Start Night, I believe that's the informational night. It's either an informational night about what Running Start is exactly, or it's already pre-existing, in which the counselors will meet with the parents of existing Running Start students that they need to discuss about their current graduation plan. But what we're thinking of doing is bringing events such similar to Cookies or Convo, and just have the board there and present and already ready. We could possibly have like a 5-minute introduction at the beginning of the meeting before they begin. But yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or?
I'll just add a little bit to the conversation if I could, Ken. When I sat down with Sebastian and Miles, it was, I think Director Prowse had made a recommendation that it's been difficult for us to encourage and get folks to show up just for the board, but when it was connected to a district activity, we had more success. And so as Sebastian and Miles looked through the calendar, these were some key events that they identified here in the fall, particularly at Othello High School for our secondary students, where we thought it might be good to connect. And so I don't know that there's any press today to get board names or attendees attached to those. We wanted you to be aware of them, and if there is going to be a quorum, we could announce that. But if one or two of you were interested in attending those, we would coordinate that work with Miles and with Sebastian, just to make sure you are available and not a formal presentation, but available to interact with the constituents. And when we were managing the district through policy governance, there was an important component around board and community linkage, and I think this is along the lines of that. We're going to create experiences where you could link with the community. So I don't think there's any expectation that all of you attend every one of those events. It's when can you be available and which ones are of interest to you.
So would you like us to just let Marisa know when? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I think if you could assess your own personal calendar and reach out to Marisa. And again, if we think there's going to be a quorum, we could announce that.
Should I give permission for all the board members to access this document?
Yeah, sure, Sebastian. You want to share that out? Why don't you share it out, though, in view only? That way we can manage the interaction with the document just through Marisa,
All right,
just to make sure it stays managed that way.
Perfect.
Ken, oh, go ahead, Ken. It was just going to be on board discussions, but I would like to see if, or I'd love to do that Husky Olympics.
Yeah.
Bring back old memories. So I think if there's any way that maybe we could get invited to that, that would be amazing. I would love to see that.
we'll get you at the bottom of the pyramid if you're interested in helping
You
out the
bet.
seniors.
I'm pretty sure I can handle a few.
Would it be possible to have a board maybe do something at Husky Olympics?
I think that would be really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would second that motion in a
Yeah.
heartbeat. I think we all have that internal kid that would love to be part of it once again.
All right, sounds great. Thank you, guys. I'll talk to Miles about this and Dr. Perez after this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll go on to board member discussion. Do we have a legislative report?
Nothing for legislative report today.
Okay. Next thing is the school board community linkage.
Yeah, Ken, that was actually the document that we just discussed, and so we've taken care of that one as well.
Okay, is there any other board member discussion right now?
Go ahead, Kenny. Lindsay.
Do we have dates for WASDA? It's in Spokane this year, right? I just wanted to make sure I get it on my calendar.
Should be on your calendar already.
Okay, thank you.
November 21 to 23.
Perfect.
Ken, or Pete, I should say, with opening this week of schools, besides everything else that Marisa has shared with us, is there anything else that's going on this weekend? I know with sports and everything kicking off and everything else.
Yeah, tomorrow will be the site visits for any of you that can attend, and so our plan was to meet here at the district office and have an SUV. We could go around together, but if you can't attend all of those and need to drive your own vehicle, certainly that's appropriate as well. So we'll have that tomorrow, a little bit of a break there on Wednesday, and then typically on the first day of school, what we do from this district office is we divide and conquer. One of us will go to each site and just greet parents in the morning, help students find their class, that kind of thing. And so you're welcome to attend those as well.
What time do you want us here in the morning?
If you're here by about 7:15, that'll allow us to get to the high school around 7:30. I think that's our first site.
Another question, Pete, and it's just Mike Dom, with taking on that AD job and everything else. How's that all going? Is that a smooth transition? I was just curious, just because all the sports are starting to kick off and everything else.
Yeah, so Mike has taken on the responsibility of making sure that our schedules are accurate and up to date. Probably the two projects that I've worked most closely with him on, so I'll just speak about my own interactions. One has been around the posting and the interviewing and hiring of a high school basketball coach. And so I know in speaking with the folks in human resources and in finance, he certainly demonstrated an ability to understand those kinds of processes, how to select an interview team and to communicate those things. So certainly early indications he understands that deeply. And then the other project I worked with him on was adjusting the time and date of the second football game of the year. The Con-Ed-Othello game, which is certainly well attended and an important game to both communities, was scheduled to be played the first night of the Othello Rodeo, which happens to be the 75th anniversary. And so we had a request from the Rodeo Association if we could adjust the time, date of that game. And so we had to sort of go back and forth with our friends in Con-El to find a time for that. But I know Mike was working on understanding how to put that into the software that allows referees to pick up the game, how to communicate with folks about that. So, becoming a principal, sort of the first day when kids show up, you're getting after it. But like you have indicated, as an athletic director, there are things in the summer that have to be done ahead of time. So we feel like we're in a good position.
Thank you.
Was he able to successfully move that football game?
Yeah, so it sounds like the game is going to be on Thursday rather than Friday, and it'll be at 8 p.m. rather than 7 p.m. So it wasn't the ideal time for the Othello staff, and it wasn't the ideal time for the Con-El staff, but it was, I think, a healthy compromise, and we appreciate the folks in North Franklin working with us on that. I was able to close the loop with the folks at the Rodeo Association at the end of the week, and they certainly were appreciative of it. So it'll be a busy week for families in Othello, but game on Thursday.
Perfect. Thank you.
Pete, if you get a chance, just let the Con-El AD and principal and superintendent, thank you very much for helping us with that issue, and that the board very appreciates all the help that they could do with it. to help us out with that.
I'll make sure and let them know.
All right, Dr. Perez, I had a question.
Yes.
Would you like me and Miles to attend tomorrow's site visits?
Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome to attend as board member. So we'll get you that scheduled today at the end of the meeting. Stop by the office and we'll get you a copy of it.
All right, sounds good. I'll bring one for Miles then.
All right.
Okay, if no further discussion, we'll go on to required approvals. Do I have a motion for the required approvals?
I motion to approve required approvals.
And I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carries. We'll go on to superintendent informational items.
For the purpose of today, I wanted to present from up here because I want to make sure that there's a conversation, and it helps if I can see your face and how you're reacting. And that we can, and a reason that that's important today is that by contract, my superintendent contract, there's a chunk in there about my own evaluation and our working relationship. And by contract, I'm required to partner with you, to join with you, to establish some goals and objectives for the year and timelines around that. And then you're required to evaluate how the district's doing and how I'm doing around those goals. And it's supposed to be done by the 30th of every year. So before the school year kicks off, we share those with you. So today I will share that information with you. It's only going to be 2 goal areas. And then we'll certainly could go back and forth today and dialogue about how you feel about it. And then at the next board meeting say, I think you've noted in the board agendas, the superintendent goals are present every time, right? That's our primary responsibility. So I want to share with you the work we've done around establishing those goals. Certainly Sandra and Jessica have been key players in helping me think through what moves should we make in teaching and learning, and what moves should we make in how we're operating the school district. And it's balancing that world is your job and my job as well. So I'm gonna jump right into it. Before I do that, I think there was one experience today that I want to share with you. At the new teacher orientation, we had a chance to take them on a bus tour. And so we drove around the community and we spent about an hour on the bus, one of the new air-conditioned buses, by the way, which I highly recommend. So we were driving around the community and we went out to the bus garage. I wanted to show them when someone says ORTC for a training, they know where to go. So we're out there, and one of our new teachers who worked for us a little bit last year as a substitute said, hey, there's one of our CDL kids, one of the kids who took the class last year and graduated, but is working and practicing for the test. And so we stopped the bus and we watched the kid back up in between some cones. And we must have watched him for 2 or 3 minutes, and then he pulled out and came back towards the fence. And since someone on the bus, one of our new teachers, said, hey, roll down the windows and we're all going to clap for him. So we put the windows down. All these new teachers, clap for him as he parks a semi. And you should have seen the smile on his face. But what was really cool about it was someone who worked for us just a little bit and is now going to work for us full time, identifying a really cool program for kids. And then someone on that bus saying, hey, we need to recognize what that guy's out there doing. One of our graduates sticking with it and going through it. So it was just a really cool connection for the new teachers and a new program and just exciting things we're doing for our kids. Now, as it relates to goals for the school district, one of the things you're going to hear me talk about is related to the strategic plan. And so we spent a year and a half identifying these targets, this outer circle, and this idea about nested goals, things that lay within one another. Our principals tomorrow and all this summer, they've been preparing their building goals. They've been working with their teachers, saying, what do we need to do? What's our next best move here at our school? And so they've been identifying those goals. And those goals are connected to the strategic plan. At the high school, it might be around attendance and ninth graders on track. Specific targets from our strategic plan. Shouldn't be different work. At our elementary schools, it might be around early literacy and attendance, connected to our strategic plan. If we're asking our principals to lead and do that work, I should be doing the same thing. That's a best practice. So you're going to hear me talk about 4 particular targets when we bring presentations to you around strategic plan implementation. And then that center circle is where the 5 of you and I are coming up with, yeah, we agree on these targets. These seem like appropriate goals, and let's measure our progress towards them through this school year. So here they are. The first goal area is around fiscal health and a sustainable budget. And I'm going to read these directly to you because there are some words in here that if you have questions about, I want to make sure that you know what I mean when I say it, and what does it look, sound, and feel like to you when you hear it. So as a superintendent, my primary goal is to maintain the district's fiscal health by collaborating with our labor partners to develop a right-sizing plan. This plan will aim to create an adequate, sustainable, and equitable budget, ensuring the long-term fiscal stability of our district while meeting the needs of our students and staff. As superintendent, my job isn't only to think about the budget this year, getting to the end of this year, it's also thinking about next year and the year after and 5 years from now. And in some of the projects we've been working on lately, maybe even 10 years down the road that we need to be thoughtful about. So to meet this goal, I want to share with you some specific actions that I'll be pursuing if we get agreement around these goals. So the first one will be collaborating with OEA and PSE on budget planning. So partnering closely with OEA, partnering closely with PSE, saying here are the staff we need, here are the number of students we have. If we have more than we need, how do we, in a compassionate and empathetic way, think about where we right-size the district? We did that last year with a lot of success, and so that'll be a broader goal this year. And in that process, they'll be, again, informing the decisions that we make as a district. And in that collaboration, thinking about innovative and creative ways to make sure that we can reassign people, look for retirements, look for people that are leaving our system, and make sure that no one wants to be in the position where they have to let someone go, particularly someone who's skilled in any industry that you work in, because the funds aren't there, the budget doesn't exist. And so we want to make sure that we're as proactive as possible in looking for creative solutions. But all of that is filtered through making sure that we're committed to the experiences that kids like Sebastian and Miles need, that we're providing those in the best way possible. We want to give our kids our best experience. We want it to be impactful, but we want to pay close attention to making sure that we can continue to fund it at the levels that it needs to be funded. These 3 actions, they don't just happen one time. It's a series of activities, a series of actions, a series of communications and meetings with folks, and then ultimately, will we reach that outcome at the end of the year? Why this goal area for me is number 1, it combines this sort of experience around teaching and learning and opportunities for kids, but it's also the fiscal reality of schools in Washington and what everyone is dealing with. And so we want to make sure that we're successful in navigating what can be a difficult time. Before I go to goal area 2, is there any questions that come to mind or clarification you might? Okay, I'm going to go on to the second one then. Now this one is around the strategic plan itself, and we've spent about 18 months developing that plan, a number of partners helping us think through that, and now it's about taking specific metrics. We're going to put some data in front of you. We're going to say at the beginning of the year, here's how we were doing. The last 3 years, here's how we've been doing. Now here's how we're doing, and here's our target, and here's our goal to make sure we're making progress. And those metrics are going to be related to attendance, early literacy, math proficiency, and 9th grade success. Those are the 4 targets we're going to share with you over and over. And how will that look, sound, and feel moving forward? It won't just be me up here presenting that data. I certainly would expect Assistant Superintendent Schenk to share some of that information, but I would also expect you to hear from our principals. If there are moments this year when we have data that's exciting, we want to bring a principal up to share their story, to tell you how they're contributing to the success that our kids are having. You might hear from teachers from time to time, but you should look for a series of interactions between the district and the board around these metrics. And Jessica and I will be leading that work. Yeah.
Will there be specific goals inside of that? For example, early literacy. Will there be, our goal is X amount of percentage of kids can read
Yeah.
by 3rd grade, or for attendance, we want specific goals inside of those areas? Or is that like goals that the principals set? Or is that,
Yeah,
you know
that's,
what I'm asking?
that's an excellent question. So when we get back to this nested model, you might hear Will Von Brocht from Hiawatha talk about how his school's doing around early literacy. But what we're going to share with you in that moment is how every elementary school is doing around early literacy on these common assessments. When we give our kids this assessment, this is how we're doing as the Othello School District, and here's how each group, each school is playing into that broader picture. So Will and all of our principals will be sharing exactly that, those specific goals tied to, and it'll have a number. So if in early literacy the number is 3 out of 10 students are reading with proficiency, and the goal this year is 4, we'll show you where we are in relation to that proficiency.
Thank you.
With that same question, just, I'm focusing on that 9th grade, one Pete, and
Yep.
because it's kind of by itself. What would be some of the things that we focus there, or what we're hoping to focus with that group?
Right. So the state of Washington uses a metric, and it's used all across the country. It's around students who are on track to graduate. So by the end of 9th grade, you need this many credits from Othello High School. What we'll be reporting on is how many kids are meeting that goal, how many kids are there. What we'll watch along the way is, we know when kids don't attend, this is what happens to them. We know that when kids are missing a lot of assignments, this is what happens to them. So we'll be monitoring those metrics as well. So you might hear some of those layered onto. So if I came to you at the end of the first trimester and said, at Othello High School we have 300 freshmen, and of those 300, 250 were on track to graduate, 50 weren't. We looked at those 50 that weren't on track to graduate, and what we noticed is that 40 of the 50 failed their math class. So that might tell us, hey, we need to work in this math area around supports that students might need. That's the kind of thing you'll begin to hear from us tied to specific measures.
Appreciate it.
And some of that, that's not new work for us to think about numbers in that way. It is going to be new for some of you, because what happened during the pandemic and right after is some of those conversations really went away. It was about, are we going to get kids back in classrooms? Are we going to have staff there? And then for us in our district, it was about developing a strategic plan. So going back to keeping score a little bit is absolutely where we're at as a district. And it can be a little unnerving for people to say, well, how are kids doing? Well, that's our responsibility. We're hired. We're supposed to provide our expertise to make sure that the number of kids that came in ready to learn, or at standard or proficient, we have more at the end of the system, right? Delivering on that investment that our community's making. So we're going to keep score a little bit. And so here are some of the actions. I talked a little bit already about the 4 specific student growth targets, and those won't be numbers that we'll put in front of you and share with you. And again, you won't hear from just me. You'll hear from our principals and perhaps from some of our staff around the progress that we're making there. And I think it'd be particularly important to bring teachers in to celebrate their success. If we can find individuals who are doing things that are outstanding, I think it'd be important for you to hear from them so that they could share with you their story about how it happened and the kinds of supports that they appreciate that might inform your decision making. We're going to do this in a quarterly way. So we're going to get up here. You should expect a couple times before Christmas and a couple times after, and share with you, here's how we're doing. You'll see it in superintendent informational items. Typically, we've had assurance of organizational performance. You might see a presentation there, and it would be me and Jessica and our principals up in front of you sharing with you how we're doing across the school district and what progress the system's making. And then tying both of these goals together is aligning our budget priorities with those targets. So if we say we have to cut back in particular areas, but we know that these 4 targets are really important for us, how are we making sure that what we decide to keep and maintain is reflected in the targets that we've established? So put your money where your mouth is, right? We're saying these 4 things really matter. We're saying that kids need these kinds of experiences. Are we spending money and assigning staff to those kinds of activities? That sort of brings both goals together. And again, it's this idea of this broad strategic plan for the entire school district about how kids are doing. That's one end of this nest. And the superintendent and board, our governance team, identifying these goals and agreeing on them together, saying we're going to be really focused. We're going to report on 4 things. And if we're really clear about that and have agreement around it, then we know that you can guarantee I'm going to go share that with the principals. They're going to understand what those goals are and that they're going to act in a similar way with their staff, helping them understand here are the metrics we're measuring and sharing and broadcasting as a community. I think there's going to be some really cool stuff to share this year. So it's exciting for us to move back in that direction. Questions about those sort of draft goals or comments?
I think we've all been really excited about what we've seen from the strategic planning, so we're really excited to see it begin to be implemented. Yeah.
I was just wondering if, how soon are we gonna roll out the, can't remember, it was kind of like the pledge that they were.
Yeah.
going-
So the
Mission statement
the
or-
mission and vision and all those things. Yeah. So, and actually, I wouldn't call it pushback, but I think the reaction to how I think I want to go through that process and have been going through that. There's one thing to taking those files and making thousands of copies and mailing it home, and you get this flashy, shiny paper that you get and may or may not read. I guess my decision has been to roll it out in a way that's just delivering through actions and how we talk about the work. So I'll share 2 examples just from today. One is by telling you we're going to use those metrics and targets, you're going to evaluate my performance based on those. So I'm saying these are the things we developed and said we're going to do. Whether or not how I'm doing in my job, I want you to measure me on that. So I think that's a demonstration of how serious I am about it. The next one is we shot a video today after the new teacher breakfast, and it's just a short welcome back video. It was me and Lindsay and the ASB president. And it's going to be 45 seconds or a minute. But what you'll begin to hear in that is dream, believe, achieve. You'll be hearing some of that phrasing. You'll be hearing some of our commitment to the core values, right? You'll be hearing those things just happen. Because I think oftentimes you have these big launches and then people just go back to work. We're going to try and do it with persistence over time, saying until those things become how we talk about our work. So that's the approach we're going to take. So you'll begin to hear it. You'll begin to see it.
I'm super excited, just from that meeting we went into in that school that had started it just a little ahead of where we were. So I'm eager, so.
Would it be possible, Pete, for us to have something here in the boardroom? I mean, it doesn't have to be big or flashy or anything that can kind of help to remind us of our mission statement. Because in some ways we helped to create that, but also just to remind us so that we see it every time we come in of kind of what our end goal is and our, reason for being here. I mean, it's the kids, but also just, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but something that we could see so that we, keep the strategic plan at the forefront of our minds as well. Yes,
Yeah,
what I'm trying to
absolutely.
Maybe
So
we get Scooter Lewis to paint it on the back wall.
yeah, there you go. We
Or even if it's just the 3 words, you know what I mean? Just something that's visual for us of, to keep that at the forefront of our minds so that we don't just go back to work and forget about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had those are excellent ideas. We had some conversations early on with the LEA about the messaging. And so what's been shared with us, so that whole process, it was a lot of support and expense to create those artifacts. What you'll begin to see is the LEA taking ownership over that and producing some of those things. So I don't want to suggest that we're not going to do some of those flashy things. They have to be part of what we do. It's branding.
Right.
It's messaging, right? You can't just say you have a good product and not share it with anyone. What I didn't want to do today, but I will do at the next board meeting, is present to you the strategic plan documents, walk you through them, because I don't want you to feel like, I wanted it to be separate from this. I wanted you to know that my goals are connected to that plan, but I wanted to separate it from saying, well, here's my plan for the next 6 years. Because what will happen is we'll get through the first couple cycles of this, even this year, and decide, hey, we need to shift and adjust here. But what I will do at the next board meeting is present to you those documents. You'll have the flashy thing in front of you. We'll talk you through it a little bit, and then you begin to become key communicators around that. So absolutely, we can do that.
As far as that video goes, I think everyone will agree that of the board members, Lindsay's the most photogenic. So, so good call.
Yeah.
Well, who's my breakout role? Let me tell you. Just kidding.
No, there's moments about messaging and communicating the story of the district. It certainly can be powerful through video, and I can be a camera shy individual, so having an opportunity to inform the text and what we're putting out there is not having orientation day tomorrow is sort of a big deal. We've always had that event where we've tried to come together, and not being able to get everyone in the same room, and our principals really focusing on the work they're doing at the building, that drove some of that decision making, but we still want to be able to connect. And so I think tomorrow, even just being present and being in the room, for any of you that can make it, is going to be really important. You know, people, you have experience in the last 6 or 7 months, some of you new to the board, people reach out to you. They reach out to you, and it's nice to have a name and a face together. And it's also important, I think, for them to see that we're a team, that I'm not going to keep things from you and you're not going to keep things from me. And they should go ask. We want our staff to be informed and that we communicate with them. And we present this unified front, even when we might disagree behind closed doors. What I can guarantee for sure is that we're all here for kids. We're all here to make sure kids get the best experience, and there might be times we disagree on what that is or how we go about it or how we pay for it. But I have all the confidence that you all are here because you want to do what's right for kids. All right.
Any other questions for Pete or comments?
Just on the budget transparency, you had on one of the goals there. I mean, it's great that we're informed on the budget, especially the next coming years. Necessarily budgets. I saw it up there somewhere. Just as we're going, that we're all on the same page. That if we, yeah, I know I saw it up there. Making budgetary decisions, prioritizing funding. I know some of the what I've read on other school districts, the board and the superintendent weren't always on the same page, and schools so the budget got out of whack, just so that if we got to tighten the belt, we know what we got to do and stuff. So going forward, but I think we're all on the same page. But I'm glad you have that on there. So.
Yeah, I think that's an important recognition when governance teams, and it's not just in school districts. Imagine, if you're running your dairy and you know we have this much for feed, and the guy you just hired thinks, no, we actually feed a quarter more than he does philosophically, and so I'm going to feed a quarter more, but he doesn't tell you. At the end of the month, that adds up, and at the end of the year, that's significant. So, looking out for one another is important. So, I'm shared with the new teachers this morning, moving into my 4th year around this process and beginning to understand the role of superintendent. It's much different than being a building principal and interacting with the board. And today's a really good example. Jessica and I will be leading a meeting at 3 o'clock with all the principals. That's the stuff I love doing. That's going to be an hour of my day. Spent a greater part of my day meeting with new teachers, helping them understand our community and what we do here. Now interacting with the board. You don't work for us, but you help guide the work, and a lot of people come to you and talk to you. So, but all of that works well when we have consistent communication. So we're absolutely going to keep you in the loop. One of the sort of core learnings for superintendents is don't ever surprise the board. And I don't ever want to be surprised by the board. And I've had the good fortune of working with 10 or 12 board members the last 3.5 years where I haven't been surprised very often, and they haven't been big surprises. Yeah. And I think it served us all well. We will try not to surprise you.
Yep.
No. Not more of a question, more of a comment. Obviously, there's still a few newbies here, 3 of us, but partaking to last year, just wanted to say thank you because we didn't know, or at least I didn't think that there was so much stuff going on, so many things that go behind closed doors, and I'd like to say I appreciate you keeping us in the loop and being very thoughtful with 3 of us because we were new and we probably didn't do things the correct way or whatever, but thank you for putting up with us because we're still learning. I imagine it'll take a long time, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We'll always be learning, and I think even after 7 or 8 or 9 years, you learn things. People bring you new issues or activities, and I think you learn to think about how you're going to process it and who to ask the questions to. So appreciate the opportunity to share the goals. I think it's an exciting year for our school district, and I guess one other cool thing to share around a budget, and maybe some good news around it. I saw the numbers this afternoon, a document that was shared with Sandra and Jessica and I that Dr. Meek put together. We had registration last week. Marisa sort of manages registration for it. She directs it and finds all the people and gets them dinner and does all the technical stuff and gets it going. And we had great response and turnout from her work last week. So much so that we have 33 more kindergartners. I think they were going to stay home, but Marisa did so well, they decided to show up. So we're up to 333 kinders, which is up significantly, about 10% up from last year and probably 15 or 20 from the year before. So that kinder one is the one you really can't determine. So we're up about 60 right now in K-6, which is really good for these budget conversations. We'll see how things play out when we do our first count in September and October, but it was a good week around registration, and the numbers look positive.
Does that mean Amy's walking around with a smile?
What's that?
Does that mean Amy's walking around with a smile?
Amy's on vacation, and she's like me on vacation. She checks her email too often. So when I saw the email go out, I said, "Oh, I wonder if she's going to reply." And so she lit it up with a bunch of happy face emojis. So yeah,
Good.
she's smiling.
Good.
Okay, also with that is the July financial report too. We have no public comment, so we will go to upcoming events. Of course, tomorrow is All Staff Orientation Day. First day of school is on Thursday. Regular board meeting, September 9th is our next one, and that one will be going back to 7 p.m.
Are we sure about that? Just was wondering.
Then our first school site visit will be September 16th at Ofellow High School. The time will be to be determined right now still. Then September 23rd will be our second meeting for the month, again here in the board at 7 p.m.
Two other events. September 3rd at the high school, FCA is doing a kickoff barbecue, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And September 4th, the Nazarene Church is throwing a block party for all new coming kids. There'll be hot dogs, gifts, school supplies, bouncy houses, face painting, the works from 5 to 7 on September 4th at the Nazarene Church, which is right behind the middle school. And so all are welcome.
Thank you. Anything else to add to that calendar?
Just one quick question while we're on events. I was unable to be at the budget public comment thing, meeting last week. How did that go?
It was a typical budget hearing of the four I've had an opportunity to be present at. Each year in those 4 meetings, we haven't had any public comment. We weren't sure this year, but just based on some of the, I think, unusual circumstances with finances in Washington, and certainly there's some more media and attention around it, but we didn't have anyone attend.
Lindsay led the meeting wonderfully.
Oh, thank you. We missed you, Ken.
Okay, we will go on to then board self-assessment of the meeting. Pete, appreciate your presentation on your goals.
And I echo that. I know it takes a lot of work behind the scenes, and we appreciate all the work you do.
I'm sad to say goodbye to our 1 p.m. meetings, but excited to kick off the new school year.
Just a shout out to everybody at the OSD. It takes coordinating from everybody, teachers, principals that probably have been back to work for a while. Just everybody for putting in all the work to get this going and to get these kids back in school and learning and stuff. And so just a big thank you to everyone from the board.
And then on the adjusting the football game between Connell and Othello during the fair week, I know I also on the livestock committee, and we have issues with Warden's got a football game on sale day, so then there's a conflict with kids not being able to. The rules they had, the exhibitor is supposed to be in the sale ring, but because of school activities, we try to work with make the exception. So we've the livestock committee's made an exception, but it's the fair and the school districts all got to work together because it's in the benefit of the kids, and so to move the football games is great because it'll help everybody out on that stuff. So thank you.
Anything else to add to it? Okay, then at this time, the board will recess into executive session for 30 minutes to discuss the performance of an employee. No action will be taken following the executive session. We'll meet back in Pete's office.